All right, let me know when we are live. Awesome. So welcome everybody. So today is going to be a really fun presentation by Anita. She's going to be talking about a project at work. Now, this work, it's in the pilot stage, so she's able to share it. So there are no confidentialities as such. However, you will not see, the company information as to what company and all that. So, but you will see the work that she's done. And the challenge here is about digitization. Okay. So this is a system where you're trying to digitize medical records. And that's the effort that Anita is going to be talking about. All right. Now, for those of you that are on YouTube and as well as the people that are joining today, quick introduction. It's going to be about 15 minutes to 20 minutes of presentation by Anita. And after that, there's going to be about 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A from everybody. And then I will jump in probably the last 10, 15 minutes and I get to talk about, my thoughts on it. And what we will also do on YouTube on those channels is we will, and as well as in the chat boxes here, we will share relevant material that you need to know to be able to execute a project just like Anita did, right? So there's a lot of theory content. And so all of those relevant content, videos and all that stuff will be shared as we are talking so that you have access to it and then you can refer to it and if you want to kind of do something like that, what is the theory and the material you need to learn. All right. So if we're all ready, Anita, are you ready?
Yeah.
Awesome. So Anita is a designer. She's got about a year and a half worth of experience. She's working out of Chandigarh. And she's also one of our intensive members. So go ahead, Anita, all yours. If you could do a quick introduction of yourself and the project and then take it from here.
Yeah. Hi. So for this project, this project was assigned to us by a government agency for health solution, especially for HIV patients. So after that pandemic happened, eSanjeevani came out. Means eSanjeevani was one of the government solution, and that was for the public. But the government, they also wanted to provide a solution for the HIV patients, and that's what I did. I did last year. I've working on it, and right now it is in pilot mode. So it's been a year working on this project, and it is almost done from my side. Like the design and brainstorming, everything is done, and development as well.
Awesome.
So I'll share my screen. I'll start my thought process for the form design. Although means it is a big solution, but I've divided it into two parts. The first one is the form design, and once we have digitized the form, then the process starts of taking it forward to different stakeholders, getting the consultation, diagnosing, and providing the right treatment for those patients, so that they don't have to travel to cities and they can get their treatment through their mobile app or by visiting the nearest center closer to their own regions. So that was the main idea, to reduce the travel time and cost effort of the patients, especially for HIV, because HIV is a lifelong disease and they need to adhere to that treatment, that ART treatment. That treatment is called ART treatment. They need to adhere. So to increase the adherence rate, we have come out with this solution. This treatment was already there, but we wanted to digitize it so that the adherence gets improved. So I'll share my screen. Is it visible? Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is the landing page. I mean, this is just a page image that I've given here to give a context. So this HIV care, this is a logo that I made. This is not the original one. So just to maintain the confidentiality till they launch by themselves on the national level. So once to scroll. Is it visible now? Rather, I will do it here.
Yes, it's visible.
So So the next step was the form design for EHIV care that was there. So the scenario is the form is reference reply form is a form to gather information about PLHIVs or people living with HIV to provide them the required care and support. The problem is the form needs to be digitized to facilitate teleconsultation, and the form needs to be simplified and organized in a simpler and efficient way. So the goal is to create digital form to collect and manage data online and reduce the scope of error. And our challenge was we were handed over this form, this physical form, which we had to simplify. So for the first time when I saw that, it was overwhelming to see such a long form, that how can we manage it, especially like there were so many medical terms used for it. We were given the reference of e-Sanjeevani to get more research into it, to see that how can we group and how can we understand things. So this was the form. The difficulty was that maintaining the medical record and also digitizing this form request and the patient experience as well. So you can see there many field name of the patient, summary, type and grade of toxicity. So I also started reading about this, that why there are so many fields, why do we need to fill so many fields. So then I got to know that HIV patients are very much vulnerable to get any infection at any moment of time. That's why they are required to put so many information to get the proper diagnosis and treatment. And the process that I followed was, the first thing is, as you can see the form, the physical form, it is very overwhelming. So the very first thing that was there in my mind was grouping. And to group it logically, we need to have the key goals in our mind and planning that how information can be accessed, minimizing the efforts so that it is not overwhelming for the users. Then evaluation and selection, that was our second step for that, setting expectations for the users, helping users enter data correctly, and wireframe and prototype and testing. So the first step, if I start saying about it, the first step is grouping and section. For that, identifying the key goal. The key goal is to that as the data, as it is medical related form, so accuracy is very important, and grouping the data in relevant grouping is also very important so that the data can be inferred properly. The user goal is to fill the required details with correct information, and the business goal is to collect as much information as possible regarding that PLHIV to provide them the customized care and support. So we know who the business are. The business are the health clinics, the ART clinics. There are hierarchical level of the clinics. So those are the users. But that is our business. But who are our users? Our users are those stakeholders, those officials who are working in those centers. So these are the centers like the care and support clinic. This is the nearest one to available in the region, like Mohalla clinic. So it is the clinic operator. There is only one user there. An ART clinic, antiretroviral treatment clinic, there these many kind of users are there. An ART center is the center where that RF gets generated and gets circulated to the other centers if required. If more detailed care is required, then it is forwarded to the higher centers. So this is how these many center and these many users were there. So first thing was to understand the user, who are our users. So we got to know at least one thing, that they are trained professional, they're not new ones, so it won't be very difficult for them. Even though it is difficult, even though the form is difficult, we thought that they might understand it. Then the step B was to group it. So we grouped it in different form. I also added some other group taking the reference from e-Sanjeevani, like past clinical history. It was not there in that form, to gather the details from their examination, laboratory detail. And for each and every grouping, I've written the user intention and business intention, that what is our intention to gather it. So the present clinical history, user will select initial details. The initial details of the PLHIV, their current state is very required. Their current health status is very much required. And as there are 10 groups, I have not shown it here, but I have captured it in sheet. We can see it in the sheet.
So I think you need to click on the open doc link for it to open.
Open doc link, where in Figma?
It's right on top. It says open docs, right? So you have to move your mouse up and click on that guy, I think. Or
is my screen not visible? Is my sheet not visible?
no, that sheet is not visible. The spreadsheet is not visible.
Your screen sharing. Okay, from here.
So maybe you're just sharing an application or something, so you may want to share your whole screen.
Whole screen. Okay, should I stop share and
Yes,
share?
just stop sharing and then reshare.
Okay. Do we have full screen for this thing for Zoom? I'm not very much used to with Zoom, so okay, screen is the first option, I think.
Yeah.
Now, is it visible?
Yes, it is. Perfect.
So for each and every group, I have written down the intentions. So you can see for the first group, I've written that initial details are very important. And here also for a lifelong disease like HIV, it is essential to know that at which stage they are. So current WHO staging and everything is required for their present clinical history. For past, it is required to know that what is their general info regarding their history. And if the patient is female, then some other details are required, then general examination, what is their height and weight, because their weight gets reduced very easily when they're suffering from this disease. So that is also very important to capture. And we are also calculating the BMI based on it. So for each and every grouping, we have set the intention, you can see. The next thing was that after deciding the group, we were thinking that what all fields will come in each and every group so that it makes sense. So for that, I did this. For each group, the present clinical history, what all fields will be there, the reason for referral, the summary of clinical history, the type and grade of toxicity, or some of the fields are taken from the form and some of them we have added based on our research from eSanjeevani or from other inputs from the client. So for past clinical history, you can see. So this sheet was prepared to get everyone on the same page. The client needs, as it is medical term, so we need their approval as well. And also so that it is easy for developers as well, that where they can use what, where means this firm helped them a lot. So that's why I've written the backend reason as well, the business goal and the user goal. So for which fields we need data from them or we need from another server like SnowMed. So for that, we have done all this. So user will select, so we can understand that it is a drop down. So we need predefined data for this, and they'll have a list of reason. So for everything I've written in that way, user will enter reason, then height, weight for AIT drug regimen, enter all the details in tabular form as it is. The regimen is in the tabular form from which date to which date and what was their adherence percentage and everything. Then after that, we thought that what all data can be inferred. So we found that there are very less data that can be inferred if it is for the first case, because this is medical thing that gets updated and we cannot fetch from somewhere else. It can, so some of them were like BMI calculation or for latest lab investigations. If they upload some information from there, we can fetch, and only for these fields we had data that can be filled because it is already filled above, so we are fetching from there to make it easier. For mandatory, we got only one field mandatory, reason for referral, so that even if it is urgent case, they can proceed it forward without making them mandatory, because not every patient will be facing the same issues. That's why it was not made mandatory. So this is how we did the first step, the grouping and section. After grouping and section, now when we know that the broader group and the sections which will come under it, we started thinking about this is how the step C, the process of understanding intention. In the second step, we started thinking that what all visual or what all elements can be used to show those fields. Now, when it is clear in our mind that these are the grouping, these are the fields, but how can we show those fields effectively? So we did, so we identified that we need a form layout, we need a progress bar, we need buttons. Primarily, these three things are required to proceed further. The text field as well. So for that, we did detailed analysis of each variations. And I have a slides here where we have done the pros and cons of different variations. We can go there as well. So this was for form layout, for progress bar, for button. Then helping users enter data and submit data correctly. So for this, we had simple principles in our mind that should be there in our mind before designing or before proceeding further, that there should be inline validations, there should be proper cascading when we're putting elements in the form layout. The text field length should be on the size of inputs, autofill and auto suggest as much as possible to avoid scope of error. We have kept so many drop downs so that, because the medical fields no one will remember and they might commit spelling mistake. So for that, we have thought of a lot of drop downs. Pleasant and user friendly copy. Auto suggest through the use of SNOMED. From there, they can get the medical terms directly. Then adding a tooltip or info icon, placeholders, some description after the heading, everything. So if we can also see the slides once, I can show you what all went there. These are the simple steps. Here I set the context. I've changed the name, so it is WACO. World AIDS Control Organization, RF. So our challenge is to design a simple and effective form, stakeholders, numbers. So when deciding about the form layout, we thought that whether it should be single column or two column. So for single column, we emphasize on the pros and cons of it, and we discussed. We also got to know that single column is better for them as they are older. The persona is older people and they can't focus on two things at one point of time, and they all even we had that mind that the text fields should be longer so that they can understand it in one go, and it will be easy to comprehend as well. For them, scanning becomes very easy, although it takes a bit of vertical space, but for them it is required so that they can capture the information. So for that, we chose the single column, and then we were thinking that whether we can have single page or multi-page. So multi-page, we thought that it is good for forms where one step is dependent, the next step is dependent upon the previous step. So in that case, that wizard kind of thing is okay for that multi-page, but we need single because nothing is dependent on anything else. They can proceed on their speed. But the con was that it was making the form very longer. So for that, we found a solution that we can have accordions, so that they'll open one and we can have the progressive disclosure that they will focus on only one accordion at one point of time, only one group at one point of time, and they can fill that, they can proceed further. So in that way, we came out with the form layout, that which form layout should be there. It should be single column, and it should be single page. And in the single page also, there should be accordion as there are so many groups. We did a variation on the progress bar as well, but we later on removed the progress bar because they didn't need progress bar, as there was no mandatory thing that needs to be filled to proceed further. They can proceed further at any step of point. Then for action, that how can we make the action easier, because that action is important, that the CTA should be identifiable, findable, and clear. These were the three things, three principles that we followed, and we did the button variation. And after the button variation, we thought that means this is just an image to show that where in the same look, in the same one view, in one glance, how many different kind of buttons we have used. One at one place it is contained, at another place it is secondary CTA, it is the primary, then another one is outlined, or it is just textual. Here when you are trying to upload the data, I think I should put it in slideshow. So here, this was a table for uploading document. There, this ad is a text kind of CTA. The sent to COM, this is a primary CTA. Then that's how we were thinking that how we can keep and how we can manage different type of buttons. And we also had the pros and cons of different CTA. We realized that we need different kind of CTA for different action. For uploading document, we can have only the textual CTA, and for the primary action, we need the contained, and for the secondary, we need the outline one. In this way, we did the pros and cons of each and every variations. Then there were other steps that receiving feedback from the system. That was very important step, that after filling the form, there should be a good message, there should be good copy that motivates the user. And that's why I've written a message here that you have just made a health service more accessible and inclusive, and keep up the good work. They can register more, or they can view patient listing. The RF, view patient listing, and that's what. Then these were the principles that are there. This is how we handle the errors. That what can means what if they miss the mandatory step, that selecting the patient, and they directly go. So how the message will be written. So this highlighting the border with the red color and writing the text, that was there in our mind. So we did enough brainstorming for that as well. Then after doing the evaluation and selection, the next step was wireframe. So we started with the paper sketches. There were many other dirty pages as well that I have not put here. So I've tried to put the cleanest one so that it is clear and an apple to eye, and then like good for eyes. And this is how we were doing our work. So I was the UX designer, there was another one UI designer, and we were all brainstorming and we were doing things. And now this is the final solution that we have. If they click on generate RF, the CTA, so where the patient is not selected, they have to select the patient first. They can select patient by their name, their ID, anything, that annotations that I've given. Once they select the patient, that patient name will be there above, for whom they're creating the RF, that is clear up and above. Then they can start. Then these are the 10 accordions that are saying, the 10 grouping that I have made. So the first one, the present clinical history, they can open it like this. They can fill up the form. This is the only mandatory field that I said, that please enter reason for referral. And this is past clinical history, the general info, and interallergy. This is how the primary CT is sent to COMO. They can directly send this form to the officials, CO and MO. These are the officials. They can send it immediately after filling the form. That will get auto saved. This is the well done message, the after confirmation. And once one cycle is completed, they can also see the previous records by clicking over this document. So we also, I have the prototype here. I'll click here and I'll show it in 2 minutes. Just I finish this next step as well, the testing. So what we did after making the wireframes and clickable prototypes, we showed it to clients, and we also did field testing. There also we got some input, and I collected all those feedback in these kind of sheet. I have this sheet access as well, where I have captured everything, that what all inputs they gave as per the date, the status, the action, the priority, and how it can be handled, whether like a design needs to be created or changed or approved. All those things were captured here. And even for doing this, we need some other confirmations and data, roles and responsibilities of different centers and stakeholders. That also, all these were captured in this sheet, in this master sheet. So I'll show the prototype here, the final solution, for which all these things were done, and those steps were followed. So this is the screen, means these are the listing, the RF already created. Either you can create RF by directly clicking on the patient, against the patient, view or edit. From there you can do, or you can directly click on generate RF there, selecting the patient first, getting their primary details. Then
So quick question, what is the RRF?
this is the name of this form, reply
Okay.
and referral form.
What's the full form of that?
Reply and referral form.
Got it. Okay. Oh yeah, you talked about it in the beginning. Yes.
Yeah. So this is how the data is accessed. Examination. The serial load wide. This is how it will look. So we take that prototype as well, that how it will be looking. This was the AIT history, the table, the everything that is here. Medical record, this. they can upload. And here there was feedback by them that they also need to customize the file name as per the upload. So they would not be just upload, they also need to write the name so that it is easily accessible. So that was also implemented after the feedback round. So that we did. Then diagnosis is the last, diagnosis and treatment. This data we were getting it from the SNOMED, and this is kind of auto suggest, where if you write 3 letters, it will give you all the related names. That can be selected, multi-select, and then the final prescribing the medicine that is there. And the other 2 sections come when it is forwarded to another center. That's what I have done. I think I've covered everything. Open to questions.
Thank you, Anita. So, yeah, any questions, thoughts, comments? Go ahead, Madhav.
Hey, hi Anita. I think this is really good. I mean, overall, the flow and everything is really good. But I had just one concern on the flow. On the can you please go back to the RRF form, please, once, the one which you are showing.
Okay.
Just hold. Just navigate me through the process, like what is all the user is doing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Good. There you are adding, right, somewhere.
I'm adding from where
Um,
the data were getting filled.
yeah.
That was by prototype.
Okay. The upload or save, somewhere you are doing the process.
Yeah,
right?
medical records.
Correct. Okay. And okay.
And
See. Okay. Hold here. Hold. So I mean, overall it is really good. I don't see any glitches there. The only challenge which I felt is on the primary action buttons. So when you are see here, if you see, the submit is at the right and cancel is at the left, but in the main thing there, the primary is again aligned in different way. That I felt maybe that can be modified. And also for the add buttons, or the save button was in mid of the content, so maybe if it can be placed either in header or footer, maybe, I don't know what is the scenario there, but just wanted to highlight that was here, the save. So
yeah, I thought that this might be questioned.
okay.
Yeah.
So see, if you have a clear rationale behind it, then that is fine. Ideal practice should be either the header or footer. That was the only thought I had when I was seeing it. But you are free to share your rationale behind that.
So, Madhav, can you repeat the question? I didn't understand it. So, what is it that you are thinking is a better solution?
On the call to action button, Prasad sir. So see here, if you are seeing, the submit is at the right side and the cancel is at the left. So
Right.
primary action, but in the main page, if you see at the top, the save draft, the primary action send to CO is again in a different alignment.
Got it. Okay, so it's a consistency issue.
Exactly. And also
Got it.
the save and add buttons are in between the content. It is not at the top, neither at the footer. So that made me think on, is it okay, or do we have any rationale behind that?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing. But rest overall, it is really good. Very, very nice work. Very nice work. Yeah.
Thank you. So the reason is this was made last 1 year back to keep the originality. I've kept it that way. And after doing the college, I was thinking that I know people will question this thing.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
And about that save CTA, this save is for each accordion, so that irrespective of one accordion, they can save it. So this is just for one accordion, and this sent to CMO is forwarding this RF to the next stakeholder as soon as possible. And about the right left, yes, for the pop-up, it's a very, it means ingrained in our mind that the secondary will be here, primary will be here. Okay, so for that pop-up, that was there in my mind. But this thing, yes, I've done this in the last 1 year.
That's okay. That's okay. But overall, it looks good. It doesn't disturb, but just on the consistency part, that's the only thing. Yeah. But good work. Nice work. Very nice work.
Thank you.
Cool. Go ahead, Panish.
Yes, yeah. So first, Anita, like the seeing the experience, like it's really a good work, like in a detailed way that you just did. It was like clearly amazing. So the one thing that I want, like the I have doubt is like as you mentioned in your research that they are generally old people, so you will go with one column row only. Like
Yeah.
so for that approach, you use accordions, right?
Hmm.
So instead of so the problem here with accordions, I feel is like when you open one accordion, the other accordions is not visible at that time.
Yeah.
Plus, if you have to move to another section, you first if, firstly like there are many sections. So if you are working in one accordion, you will never get to know ki what all others groups are there. So you have to scroll it each and every time to see, firstly to see ki, okay what all things are there, secondly to navigate to that to fill that things, right? So wasn't this solution came to your mind ki instead of accordion, if we have this grouping fields into left navigation, because we are using single column. So if you open any of the accordion, you will see that the input field is stretching so long. In fact, for a name, we do not need this much long column, right? For input, we can have it in a half column also. Like if you see, open the present clinical history or like any of the section. So like, yeah, you see that for please enter reason for referral, it is too long. We do not need actually this long. So instead of having the groups in the accordion, if we have it in a left navigation, like create one more left navigation, so that it will be easy for user to see at any point of time in filling any form, okay, what all things that are remaining. Plus, it will be easy for him to just navigate to each and every group without scrolling up and down and see what all things are there by just clicking on the thing. So that was my question. Like, was this solution was also in your consideration? Or like, if it was, then what was the reason of like rejecting that and choosing this one over it?
The point was my question to your your comment is that why do you want to see all the information at one point of time? The thing is, we wanted to have the progressive disclosure here, to focus one thing at one time. But if you want to take a glance, you can simply click on every accordion and you can just see that what all fields are there that I have to fill. You can simply do by clicking here. You can see open each and every accordion and you can see it there itself. And this the bigger reason for referral that you're saying earlier, I've not mentioned here, but it was our first attempt was 2 column. We thought that to utilize the real estate we should have the 2 column, but they were finding it difficult when we did field testing for them. And especially in 2 column there should be proper cascading and coherence should be there. There should be proper dependency of one field to the other, like CVV and expiry of a credit card. They have dependency. So in that case, we can have the 2 column. But in this case, it was becoming very difficult to make 2 column. And they themselves were very much inclined with this. We did A and B testing for this. So they were inclined into this because their eyes were trained for fields, bigger fields like this. And they were finding it comfortable.
Okay.
The first one, even for the first one, we made upper this thing steppers, but that one also didn't work because they wanted to have there were 10 things, so they need to scroll. So without scrolling, they can have at least that what many fields are there, and they can just open and see, open and close, open and close. That's what they find it easier. And in the left navigation that you were saying, I'm doubting the left navigation because the left navigation is for the other functions, for
No,
the
no,
other
like
the left
if you have
panel.
seen the like bigger dashboards, like when we have dashboards for like big data for like big companies, they are like steps navigation. So first will no, this navigation will not be affected, just
Mhm.
like the way you have
Another
designed the
ribbon will
form.
come, vertical
Yeah,
ribbon.
because then at every each point of time, the user will be informed, okay, this much I have done, this much all is still remaining. But here, like I will be not informed, okay, this how much it
Yeah,
is
here they
remaining.
don't have any target to fill everything.
Okay.
Some of the fields might be filled by the other officials. That's why even the fields are not mandatory. For patient registration, there are fields mandatory that you need to fill their age, gender, their caregiver details. That is there for patient registration. But for this RF, nothing was target based or nothing was mandatory. Only one field, the reason for referral was mandatory, and there was no. That's why I've removed the progress bar as well, because there was no mandatory. There was no mandate to fill things before proceeding further. There might happen that the next details will be filled by the medical officer who is sitting next to him, and he just need to start the case and forward the case. So there are many dynamicities. So for that reason it was done. And even if we do the vertical ribbon now, in that way also you can see one thing at one time, and if you scroll you can see the other, but that won't serve the purpose. That I think that at one moment of point they can see one thing, and they have the flexibility to open the other fields as well.
Okay.
That's what like there in my mind.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
I hope it's nice.
Thanks, Punish. Jeffrey, you're next. Can you turn on your camera if possible so that we can see you as well? Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Hi, can you see me now?
Yes.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I had first of all, amazing work, Anita. This is like pretty intense and very well researched. So I had just one doubt. Would it help if they say if I since you have gone with an accordion sort of a layout for filling out the form, would it help if we had a signal telling us how much percentage of the form we have filled under each on top of each accordion, so that not top on the on each accordion, so that we won't have to open and close each one to see how much you've filled? Or are all of the, I think another question is, are all of the inputs is there any distinction between optional inputs and mandatory inputs? How does the form work? Does it need, in this case, did it require any such elements?
Yeah, there are such elements. For that we have used either server or we have given a drop down. So one thing is these many drop downs are there. We need auto suggest and auto select. That is there. I can show you here. It is there in diagnosis. You can see select here. There are drop downs where we have given the drop downs. The other thing is the percentage thing that you are saying. Even I thought of that will help users, that that my solution is incomplete, but it was not required for them. Like they were saying that it is not required as we don't have any target to fill it in that way, and they are also trained professional, so they were not they were not approving it. Even I've done the progress bar variation. I thought that it would be useful, but for the mandatory and optional that you were asking, we have only one field mandatory. For that we have given starred. Even I don't know why it is not visible here, but I've starred this one because this is the only mandatory field, and if you click on send or any CTA, it will remind you for the error that I've done it in paper wireframe as well when I was showing. So that's how for optional and mandatory, there's only one field mandatory that I've read start, and the other fields that there was no target to fill it or to get the update. That's why it is not done.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Go ahead, Kranti.
Hi, Anita. Kranti here. So yeah, regarding work, it is so intensive and well documented, and I see the effort. But I want to know, before asking my question, I want to know how much duration it was given for the project, or else how much time you have taken, and the team size, like the designers who worked on this.
The designers, the team size is 2. I was a UX designer. There was another UI designer. She's doing an IFT, so we both were there only in the team. And initially there was no manager. So for 2 to 3 months, I was the one who was doing the talks with the client as well. Later on, there was a freelance manager who was there. So he was handling the calls. And I had my CEO who was also giving me the reviews. CEO was there many of the times. Yeah.
How long it was?
We got this project last year, October. So the design end was done by November, December. In December, we started the app design The
Okay.
first thing we did was panel design, and it was as it was a government project, we had a very short tender that we had to deliver it as soon as possible, and design team is always in pressure to provide. So we spent like 1.5 to 2 months of intensive review and feedback. We were working late nights, weekends, so to get all those interactive prototypes done so that every time it is clickable and working well. So that you can say October, November, December, it was all hard work.
So 3 months it is.
Yeah, it was that was forming the foundation. After that, also work was going on, but not at that pace the way it was going in those 3 months.
Okay.
It was going, getting the feedback, enhancing it, and adding more features. Then super admin thing, all those things started happening. But for this thing, it started in October.
Cool. Thank you. And regarding the, user environment, I have one question, like how much time the user will be having to fill up all these details? Like
the user role, the user's profession is to do this. The data coordinator that I've written here, their main profession, they work in ART clinic, antiretroviral treatment clinic, and their work is to treat HIV patients, and whoever HIV patient will visit there, they have time to cure or write form for them. So they have the time, and we don't have like if you compare the COVID and HIV, like we don't have as much patients of HIV as compared to COVID. So even the form is lengthy, it is not a time problem for them. What they more need is customized diagnosis and treatment for each and every of them, because it affects people in different way. So it does require time and effort to help them.
Okay, because with respect to that, like since there are a lot of non-mandatory fields, actually, how much is enough to process the relevant this generating RRF, what you are calling?
If they just want to only get the consultation, so the reason for referral is made mandatory. Means what is the reason? There are primarily 3 to 4 reasons: failure to first line, second line, third line, doctor counseling. Many of the time they need counseling sessions as well because they feel lonely with this disease. So that is also there for providing them counseling services. So that is the only thing mandatory. Rest everything like opportunistic infection, type and grade of toxicity. These things, not everyone will get that infection. Not everyone will have less BMI or less body weight, or that's why it is not made mandatory. Not everyone will have viral load CD4 documents. If they won't have, still they can proceed further to get counseling and get treatment.
Okay. Why I'm asking this question is because usually what happens when it comes to government organization, they will skip all the fields and they'll just put out some 1 or 2 information like details of the patient, and then just they'll close it. So that's the reason. Like if it is mandatory, you can put it above. Like how we are showing patient name, other details here, you can put it like open so that the user can see it upfront. So that's what my opinion is. So thank you, Anita. Thanks for answering my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Kranti, for the questions and reasoning everything. It was good. I consider your feedback that the only thing mandatory that should be kept open so that they can proceed further without having reducing 1 click. So that can be thought of. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kranti. So, I'm going to do a quick survey. I want everybody to, answer this question. So there are 2 questions in there. The first one is, what do you think about the work that's done? Technically, the quality of the work that Anita did. The second one is the quality of the presentation that Anita did. So there are 2 questions in there. So I would love for all of you to just put in your survey and enter the data there. All right. And then I will break it down. And I think, and I'll share my perspective and I'll share my thoughts on that. So go for it. Rate the quality of the artifacts is rate the quality of the work. So technically, how good did she do? So that's what it is. And then if you scroll down a little bit, it is rate the quality of the communication on a scale of 1 to 10. Where 10 is like rock star, right? If she was to go for like an Apple interview or whatever, she'd nail it. right? That's what it is. Awesome. I think everybody is like, I think enjoyed the presentation because it's like the rate of participation is like big.
Thank you.
All right, so we will end the poll in about 10 seconds. All right, let's end the poll. Awesome. So majority of you basically gave like, I think an 8, 9, and 10 is probably like 30, 40, 50. Almost about 50% plus was an 8+ score. Okay. And then the second part is when you're looking at in terms of the quality of communication, again, it's a 8+, almost an equivalent 50% of you said 8+. Okay. Now, here's what I would say if you ask me to evaluate this work. Okay. Let me just move to a side-by-side. Give me a second. All right. So, at a high level, right? I mean, I think, Anita, when I look at this, I'm totally fida, right? Really good work, right? It's like a very solid technical work. Okay. And if you were to ask me to give you on a scale of 1 to 10, technically the quality of the work that you did, I would probably rate it at a 9 or a 10, right? This is the exact same presentation that I would see in the US from like top designers, right? And in some of the really top, companies, right? So it's a 9 or a 10. Awesome, right? If you ask me about the quality of your communication, I would say it is probably a 3 or a 4 out of 10, right? And that is what I mean is, that's a difference between saying, am I doubling my salary or am I quadrupling my salary, right? And I will basically step back and I'll tell you about the storytelling. Now, there are technical problems, small technical problems around the place, which I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, go through them because I think, there's like, the rest of the community members did a phenomenal job. I think Kranti's feedback is awesome, which is, yeah, if that is mandatory, why not put it outside, right? Now, the other feedback that was there was, yeah, I mean, the buttons, right? So the sequence of the buttons, absolutely good catch. The next feedback was, there was this confusion about the save and, whether, so I think you need to do a little bit more visual work on that to communicate that this save is for this accordion element, right? So there are those minor level stuff that's in there, but, I think from a storytelling perspective, think about all the confusion that came about, right? And how should you be telling the story? Because when I was hearing you, I was not understanding how big of a problem you were solving. You solved all the problems, you understood all the problems, but when you don't tell the story, you will never get credit for it. Okay, so let me basically take a stab at telling the same story that you did, but in a slightly different way. Okay, now what you did was you focused your whole presentation on a UI level. You did UX work and you sold it as UI. Okay, now the way I would approach it is I say, listen, the government healthcare system is really large and very complex, right? Now, the Indian government has probably one of the most comprehensive, HIV monitoring and support systems in place, right? So what is happening is, but unfortunately, most of the work is done on paper, right? So the challenge that came to our team was to say, how can we digitize this experience? Right now, when I want to digitize this experience, when we went in to do some research and understand the problem is there are 7 different stakeholders all entering different data at different times for the same patient. Right. For example, if it's on your clinic, if the guy is in your, if you're at your local clinic, the person might just put in your demo, your height, weight, all that stuff, and then kind of let you go, right? If you go to an antiviral clinic, they might actually administer medications for you. You go to a lab, they might actually do blood tests for you. So because there's so many stakeholders, everybody entering data asynchronously, right? That's one huge challenge that we have to solve. Right. Now, the second challenge that you have to solve is because, when you're trying to digitize an experience and run it out on a large scale, now learnability is a big challenge within my audience, right? Because most of these guys are very busy with patients. I can't do classes for them to learn my interface. So I need to make my interface easy enough so people are understanding. Right. Now, the third problem that I'm actually solving here when I'm looking at this experience is it needs to be simple and it needs to be easily accessible for everything, right? So that's the other aspect. So now that you've communicated your problems, okay, now everybody is fixated on, at this point, all of you are thinking like, oh, wow, how did Anita solve this problem? This is a huge problem, right? Which is exactly what she did. But you did not even think about it, right? So it was a huge problem. She did all that stuff, but nobody thought. Then you say, okay, now what I did was, for the first problem, okay, which users, because it's such a huge system and everybody's entering data at different times, we need to map who's entering what data, right? So here's an analysis of all the different users and what data do they enter at what time, right? Now, a lot of your grouping was also based on who was entering what data, right? Now, that component, you never communicated it in a verbal level. But once you started demoing it, I kind of read between the lines, and that's what you did. But take each of those problems, break it down and say, okay, how do I make sure that there's so many people, everybody entering asynchronously? Well, I mapped all the users. I said, what data is everybody going to enter? Where is the loop? And then I said, what is the non-negotiable elements? What are the negotiable elements? So non-negotiable, they have to enter no matter what. So if I would take Kranti's feedback and move it out, that's like a winner right there. And then for the negotiable elements, here's the stuff. And whoever is the user that needs to read, they just expand the appropriate accordion and they fill it in. Right? Now, the argument that you made, should I do an accordion? Should I do a long page versus should I do multiple pages? That argument totally does not make sense, right? Because the moment you say, everybody's entering asynchronously, you want people to discover. It's very easily discoverable about what are all the data that you need to enter. And it's very easy for you to discover where you need to enter your data. Which is why if you do the accordion, that is the perfect answer. Your solution was correct, but the way you talked about it was not correct. Okay. And so when you start talking about this and you say, this is what we did. Now, what I would have loved for you to do in the last is, okay, this is how we solved each of the 3 problems. For each of the 3 problems, this is how we solved it in the experience. And now, right, we did the usability testing. We realized so earlier it would take X amount of time to do it. Now it's this. It's easily understandable. It's easily learnable. So this is where the problems are kind of solved. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 problems are solved. Done. You've nailed your type 3 company. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that is where I think, in fact, a lot of your seniors in the intensive program and everybody will tell you exactly that, right? If you do technically good work, you will get value at one level, right? You get seen as somebody who can do the job, right? But you don't get seen as somebody who's an opinion leader. But if you do technically really well and you communicate it right, you're seen as an opinion leader, as a leadership material, which is a fundamental change in the way companies look at you and they want to hire you there. Okay, so that's what my feedback is. I think this is just phenomenal work. Probably one of the, best works I've probably seen. This would probably be like in the, again, this is, I'm not like just telling you for the sake of it. Like, in my professional career, I have seen the same caliber of work come out from some of the top designers in some of the top companies. right? So really good job. Practice your storytelling. And I think that's it. You would have like done it.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Awesome. So any other questions, thoughts, comments, guys? Yeah, Kratik, go ahead.
Like I have one question, like while you are doing UX, like you have done the business and the user goals for all the field level also. So I just wanted to know, like we have already done for the section levels, then why you have done that for individual field level also? Is it required there? Like what is the reason behind that for doing that even in the small level for the small level?
Yeah. So when I was writing the user intention there, I was making sure that what will be the kind of data there. So whether they'll be entering, whether they'll be selecting, whether they'll be choosing out of two. So that was the user intention, and the business intention was to write that why it is required, so that we can remove if it is not required from the business point of view. That was there, and the backend was for the developers. Because when they see the wireframe, they also want to know that which will have what consequence, or how it will open, or what will be the intention or objective behind it, behind this text field. So that was the three things that I tried to analyze each and every field.
Okay, so just a question to Prasad. So, like, is it a good practice? Should we do it for like designing everything, like to even on a granular level? Should we do this kind of practice, or it is like good for these kinds of projects only?
So you're saying like, how she did her form design and she talked about all the different things. Should she
Everything,
do
yes,
that?
yes.
So really good point. I don't think you should do it, but I don't think you should present it on a job interview.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So if they ask you, why did you decide that? You can show all this and then floor them, right? Because like they say, I want to, did you think about this? Yes, wait, here's this whole complex. Oh, okay. Did you think about this? Wait, here's this whole complex stuff. So some of the stuff, keep it hidden, right? And this is where you can, this is what I say is it is the planning your interview, right? You deliberately dig some holes and ask some obvious opportunities where people will ask you the question and then you say, here's everything I did. And now the person will not ask you any more questions. Okay. So this is like, you've done the work, keep it in your appendix, let the person ask, and then you bring it up. Right? But there was one other thing that you did that nobody noticed, including, that I kind of noticed, but I forgot about it, but I also want to bring it up. So how was your engagement with engineers? Were there a lot of questions, or did they just kind of do it? They understood it, they just ran with it. What was your, how was the reception with the rest of your team, the product managers as well as the engineers?
Project manager, he liked the really, because everything was clickable, and he understood the flow. Along with the flow diagram, I had to provide the flow diagram as well to make them understand. And with developers, it was easy. Like I used to sit with them for each and every brainstorming or solutioning, or to make them understand. And easily, even by providing them the prototype link, they were able to understand many of the things. And this Excel sheet, I personally asked them that their user, business, and backend thing is written. I personally asked them, is this sheet useful for them? Is it useful for you? So they told that your prototype works, but if you give this sheet along with your prototype, it is like cherry on the top. So it helps us to make things clear. Sometimes things are ambiguous in prototype or in design perspective. We have put something, but when I read this thing, I become sure of it.
Right. And that is what you've nailed. So if there's this one thing as far as working with team members, for all the people that are watching this, right? This is the way you want to work with your partners, right? A designer never works alone. They're working with engineers, product managers, and all these people. And if you look at it, what you were doing, and again, you never talked about it. I kind of read between the lines, right? And if you just talk about it, you get the credit for it.
Yeah,
so
I told just once that this backend is for developers. Yeah. So,
but here's the deal. The way you said was, first you need to build consensus. So what you did was you put it in the Excel sheets, right? And you shared it with your product managers, and you said, okay, is this the data? So at every stage of the way, right? You were getting sign-offs. So it was not that you would do the final product and then somebody will come in, it comes up something completely wrong. At every step, you're getting sign-offs. You're getting sign-offs on the data, you're getting sign-offs on accountability, you're getting sign-offs. Even, what is interesting is you proposed new data forms, which was beyond the scope of what your client asked you to do. And they loved you for it, because even though you proposed it, they sat down, they ideated, they felt that you were a part of that team, right?
Yeah.
That's what I call, it's like, when I say pragmatic UX, a designer goes in and controls the show. This is what I mean by controlling the show, right? Because everybody was, you were holding everybody, you're talking to everybody, but you were the glue that was making this project run. Right?
Yes, this
Was this the use case where, your client was telling and your CEO said, you told the CEO, how does this work? And the CEO said, talk directly to the client. And then is that the one?
Yeah, I have done that.
So this is again for everybody, Anita and I had a separate conversation a while ago, but this was where, the client was giving requirements and Anita, it didn't make sense to her. She talked to the CEO, how does this work, right? And then she turned to the CEO, said, talk directly to the client. She sat down with the client and looked through it. The client agreed, yeah, what you are saying is correct. And then Anita turned around to him and said, why don't you, actually, that's beyond the scope. You need to pay more money. And she made the client pay more money. Now imagine that is what the power of this designer is, right? You are running the show, client ho, CEO ho, or even whether it is your engineer or your product manager, everybody is accountable to the design process, right? That is the beauty of it. And if you have talked about this, if you had talked about that part, that's like a whole new level to your seniority. You understand, Anita?
Yeah, I understood. So actually that thing was there. Even I've talked to client for this project as well and for another project as well. That is Swastingit, which is going live today. It is pilot. It is on pilot today. And we got the reviews also from the direct survey that was happening, and they were really liking the 2.2, the Swastingit 2.2 that we have made. That's what I shared that story with you. And I'll share that case study as well. And for this also, the way you understood that, yes, I was the glue because there was no project manager at the beginning. So I was the one who was talking and taking inputs from the client. And there were some places where I told them, okay, this is not possible. And for the developers also, when they were saying it's not possible, then I told, no, you can do it. Please try it. We can have it. Many of the time complexity increased and they were saying, no, we can't do this. So I had to bargain in between with the client and with the developer that what all things are feasible, what not.
And that's what I mean. It's a type 3 mindset, right? That is a type 3 mindset. You're going in to control the show. And again, there's so many lessons to learn from the work that you've done. And, the least of it is the technical component. I think what it is the way you thought through it, the way you brought your team on board, the way you kind of coordinated with all those players, right? I think that is a story that you also need to start practicing and talking about. All right. So yeah, awesome. Ishita, you have something, the last comment before we call it a day. Go ahead, Ishita.
Yeah, sure. The last thing, just wanted to know. So I think, Anita, it's a great work, first of all. I wanted to know, after learning from the college, what are the areas you are looking for to change and the scope by seeing your work, the previous work here? What you wanted to change?
My intention, like joining college, was to systemize the steps that I do and enhance and understand that what all steps are very much required. Some of them can be skipped. What is more required, what needs to be emphasized, what needs to be highlighted, and what should be there. So I was doing all this, but the thing was there was no senior UX designer in my team. So I wanted to validate my thought and steps. So that's why I joined college. And I've done this project last year, but I've made the case study retrospectively, taking the inputs from the college, what I've learned in the form design class as well. So I've tried to put it so that it comes into an order. What we do in office, it's very hustle work and we need to get things done, workflow diagram, wireframe, approval. That's how in reality the work happens in service design, especially the service industry. Like quickly get the inputs, get the workflow diagram, and that's what. But yes, after getting with the college, when I was doing the steps of what is mentioned in the college, like form design, I understand that I have done this, but it is there somewhere in my subconscious mind. But these steps what it brings out those ideas in a systematic way, so that it is easy for us and also for others to communicate and understand, so that we can get the learning from our course, what we are doing, from our project also, and we can carry it forward, our failures and our learnings, what needs to be emphasized. That's what I have learned, and that's what is my motive out of it. I think I have answered answer your question. I tried. Was it?
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Just wanted to have this, like, if you get a chance to just revisit your work, what are the areas, the broad level areas you are looking after learning from the college?
Yeah, it was that CTA thing, the primary and the secondary CTA. So at that time, we were in hurry and we were trying to do okay. So as this is the first course of action, so I put that first. But in pop-up, we have the habit of keeping it in the second. So that's what was there. That even when I'm doing it now, I am questioning a lot myself that, oh God, what I have done. And it becomes so difficult for designer. They always suffer from that syndrome, imposter syndrome, that whenever they themselves see their work, they feel like, oh, what I've done, how will I show, what will I talk? Yeah, that happens. So right now I think more of everything. Is it solving the problem? So that question comes automatically after joining the college. Is it really solving the problem? What is the problem it is solving? What do I have to do? So in this case study, especially, I was just focused on the form design and not more on the problem. That's why my focus was not there while communicating as well. The problem, my mindset was not there in that point of view. Where I have also made the portal version of it. When I'll explain that, then I'll focus on the problem more. And I'll also focus on the feedback that I've received from Prasad. That's so good.
Awesome. Thank you all, guys. Thank you all for coming in. So we're going to put the resources. I think the resources you've already done. Awesome. So Rajiv has already put the resources, I believe, on YouTube. So, and again, if you want to be, for all those of you watching on YouTube, if you want to be notified about more such events and stuff like that, when we go live, subscribe so that as soon as we go live or anything, or we set up an event, you get a notification for yourself. So Kranti, you have anything else you want to add?
No, not regarding this, Professor. I have one request actually. So I wanted to ask about this, like how designer should work in agile methodology, I mean, environment actually. So is it possible to, talk about that, like if possible in upcoming sessions? So I just wanted to make a request.
That's a really good suggestion. I think we can definitely talk about that. So Rajiv, if you can just take that note. We will plan around agile methodologies and how design can kind of support it, and that will be great. Yeah, thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you, sir.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Have a good night and have a great weekend. Bye.
Prasad, can you stay back?
Yes, I will stay back. Or actually, why don't you all step out and then rejoin the call? Okay.
Okay.